Alright, let's talk about one of the most annoying things that can happen to your car. You get that dreaded check engine light blinking at you, and the whole car starts shaking like a leaf in a hurricane. You pull out your code reader, and it screams Misfire at you. So you do the smart thing, the thing everyone tells you to do first. You go out and buy a fresh set of spark plugs and shiny new ignition coils. You spend your Saturday afternoon getting your hands dirty, swapping out all the old parts, feeling pretty good about yourself. You fire up the engine, and for a glorious second it purrs like a kitten. But then, chug, sputter, shake, the misfire is back. It's a real head-scratcher, isn't it? You replace the most common culprits, the parts that are supposed to fix this exact problem. It's enough to make you want to pull your hair out. A lot of folks get stuck right here. They think they've wasted their time and money, and maybe they even made the problem worse, but don't you go throwing your tools across the garage just yet. An engine is a complex beast, and a misfire is just a symptom. The spark plugs and coils are just one part of the equation. The engine needs three things to run right: spark, fuel, and air. You've addressed the spark, but now we gotta look at the other two. So, what gives? Why is your engine still throwing a fit? Well, the problem isn't always with the parts that create the spark. The issue could be with the fuel getting into the cylinder or the air it needs to mix with. Think of it like baking a cake. You can have the best oven in the world, your spark plugs. But if you use bad flour, which is your fuel, or forget to add the eggs, which is your air, that cake is going to come out all wrong. Your engine is the same way. A persistent misfire after a tune-up is your car's way of telling you that the problem is a little deeper than you initially thought. This is where a little bit of knowledge can save you a whole lot of money and a trip to a mechanic who might just start throwing parts at it. Before you give up, there are a few more things you can check yourself, using some common sense and a few simple tools. We're going to walk through the next logical steps, from the fuel system to vacuum leaks, and figure out what's really making your engine unhappy. Don't be intimidated. Most of these checks are simpler than you think, and you don't need a fancy degree in mechanical engineering to do them. Let's get to it. The first place I always look after plugs and coils is the fuel system, specifically the fuel injectors. These little guys are responsible for spraying a fine mist of gasoline into each cylinder. If one of them gets clogged up with gunk or just plain fails, that cylinder isn't getting the fuel it needs to fire properly. It's like trying to water your garden with a nozzle that's clogged with mud. You're just not going to get a good spray. You can sometimes diagnose a bad injector with a simple trick. Get a long screwdriver or a mechanic's stethoscope. With the engine running, carefully touch the tip of the screwdriver to each injector and put your ear to the handle. You should hear a distinct, rapid clicking sound. If one of them is silent, you've likely found your culprit. Next up on our list of suspects are vacuum leaks. This is a big one, folks. Your engine is basically a giant air pump, and it's a sealed system. If there's a crack in a vacuum hose or a bad gasket somewhere, unmetered air gets sucked into the engine. This throws off the delicate air-fuel mixture that the computer is trying to maintain. The engine's computer sees all this extra air and gets confused, which can easily cause a misfire. These leaks can be sneaky and hard to find. Look for any hoses that are cracked, brittle, or disconnected. Pay close attention to the intake manifold gasket, which is a common failure point on many cars. A small leak can cause a big headache. Don't forget about the sensors. Modern cars are covered in them, and they all talk to the engine's computer. A faulty mass airflow, or MAF sensor for example, can cause all sorts of problems. This sensor measures the amount of air entering the engine. If it's dirty or broken, it sends bad information to the computer, which then calculates the wrong amount of fuel to inject. The result? You guessed it, a misfire. Another one to check is the camshaft position sensor. This tells the computer which cylinder is on its compression stroke so it knows when to fire the spark plug. If that sensor is on the fritz, the timing will be all wrong. Finally, let's talk about something a little more serious: mechanical issues. This is the stuff nobody wants to hear, but it happens. We're talking about problems inside the engine itself, like low compression. If a cylinder has worn piston rings, a burnt valve, or a bad head gasket, it can't build up enough pressure to properly ignite the air-fuel mixture. This will cause a persistent misfire that no amount of new plugs or coils will ever fix. Checking compression requires a special tool called a compression tester, but it's a straightforward test that can tell you a lot about the health of your engine's internals. If you have low compression in one cylinder, you've found a major problem. So, how can you check for these things without a garage full of expensive equipment? Let's start with the fuel injectors. Besides the screwdriver trick, you can try running a good quality fuel injector cleaner through your gas tank. Get a bottle of the good stuff, not the cheap junk. Pour it into a nearly empty tank and then fill it up with premium gasoline. This can sometimes dissolve the carbon deposits that are clogging up the injector and restore its spray pattern. It's a cheap and easy first step. If the misfire seems to move around or get a little better after this, you're on the right track. For tracking down those pesky vacuum leaks, you don't necessarily need a professional smoke machine, though they do work best. You can try the old school way. Get a can of carburetor cleaner or even a spray bottle of soapy water. With the engine idling, carefully spray short bursts around the vacuum hoses, the intake manifold gasket, and the throttle body. If you spray an area and the engine's idle suddenly changes, either speeding up or stumbling, you've found your leak. The engine is sucking in the carb cleaner or water instead of air. Be careful doing this and keep a fire extinguisher handy just in case. Testing sensors at home can be a bit trickier, but it's not impossible. For the mass airflow sensor, you can often just clean it, unplug it, carefully remove the two little screws holding it in, and pull it out. Buy a special can of MAF sensor cleaner, don't use anything else or you'll ruin it. Spray the heck out of the delicate wires inside, let it dry completely, and reinstall it. A dirty MAF sensor is a very common problem. For other sensors like the camshaft or crankshaft position sensors, your best bet is often to inspect the wiring for any obvious damage. Sometimes the connector is just loose or corroded. Now, for checking compression. You can buy a compression tester kit for a pretty reasonable price at any auto parts store. The process is simple. You'll need to disable the fuel and ignition systems first, usually by pulling a fuse or a relay. Then you remove one spark plug at a time, screw the tester into the spark plug hole, and have a friend crank the engine for a few seconds. Write down the pressure reading for each cylinder. The important thing isn't just the number itself, but that all the cylinders are relatively close to each other. A big difference, like one cylinder being 30 or 40 psi lower than the others, points to a serious internal engine problem. Look, I'm all for saving a buck and fixing things yourself, but you have to know when you're in over your head. If you've gone through all these steps, you've checked the injectors, hunted for vacuum leaks, cleaned the MAF sensor, and even done a compression test, and you're still stuck with that misfire, it might be time to call in a professional. There's no shame in it. Modern cars are incredibly complex, and sometimes you need specialized diagnostic equipment and years of experience to find the root of the problem. Don't keep throwing parts at it hoping for a miracle. That's how you turn a small problem into a big, expensive one. When should you make that call? If your compression test shows low numbers in one or more cylinders, that's a definite sign. That means you're looking at internal engine work, like replacing a head gasket or dealing with valves and pistons. This is not a job for the average weekend warrior. Also, if the problem is intermittent and you just can't seem to replicate it consistently, a good mechanic with a high-end scan tool can look at live data from the engine's computer to catch the fault as it happens. They can see things your basic code reader can't even dream of, like fuel trim data and individual sensor readings in real time. Choosing the right mechanic is key. Don't just go to the cheapest place you can find. Ask your friends and family for recommendations. Look for an independent shop with good reviews that specializes in diagnostics. A good diagnostician is worth their weight in gold. They won't just replace parts, they will find the exact cause of the problem, saving you money in the long run. Tell them everything you've already done. Let them know you changed the plugs and coils and checked for vacuum leaks. This helps them avoid redoing your work and lets them start on the next logical step, which is what you're paying them for. Ultimately, the best way to deal with misfires is to prevent them from happening in the first place. Regular maintenance is your best friend. Use good quality gasoline, change your oil on time with the right kind of oil, and replace your air and fuel filters according to your owner's manual. A little bit of prevention goes a long way in keeping that engine humming and the check engine light off. A well-maintained car is a happy car, and a happy car won't leave you stranded on the side of the road with a frustrating, stubborn misfire. Rev up your engines and keep them running right.